Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Grandpa.
Merry Christmas, Grandpa.
Merry Christmas, Grandpa.
Hi, Grandpa. Merry Christmas. Wanted to share with you some memories I have of going to your and Grandma's house growing up, and I thought it would be fun to have all the grandkids share some memories that they have. So this is a little video that we put together for you.
Hi, Grandpa. Merry Christmas. We're sharing some of our fond memories from visiting you growing up. I have quite a few, but I'm going to stick to some of the more memorable ones. One thing I really enjoyed was making cider and chopping up the apples. Thought that was pretty cool. I also enjoyed picking berries along the fence outside your house. One thing I always enjoyed was beating David at basketball because I think that helped build his character. I also had a couple really traumatic experiences that I can look back on and laugh, but one time I remember you cornered me in the garage and pulled one of my teeth out when it was loose. I was pretty scared. Also, one time I choked on a piece of hard candy in the kitchen and Grandma whacked me in the back and it popped out. But the thing I think I remember most and looking back on it, enjoy the most thinking about was just having family dinners together and singing around the table. So I hope you have a Merry Christmas and I hope to see you soon.
Hi, Grandpa. Merry Christmas. So I have so many favorite memories of you and Grandma over the years, but I think a lot of them are around food and being around the table together. And I just remember, I think for all of us grandkids, but especially for me and Alex, because we weren't used to growing up around fresh corn and having apples in the backyard. So we would always look forward to meals because we knew that you were going to whip out some of your sweetened creamed corn and some of your homemade applesauce. We couldn't get over it. We always told my mom, like, this is homemade. He grew the apples. Did he pick the apples? Did he make this? And best of all, your homemade grape juice. And we always knew that it was extra special, so it would be kind of rationed, and we savored it so much. I know Alex and I would always like look over at each other and smirk, and like I would take a tiny sip of my grape juice and just savor it and be like, I must remember this taste because I'm not going to get it until next summer or next time we see Grandpa and get his delicious food. So yeah, I always love that memory. Anytime I now drink grape juice, you know, like from the store or something, I'm just like, this is unacceptable. It's not like Grandpa's. Same with apple sauce and creamed corn. None like yours and Grandma's. So I will always love those memories. I love you so much. Merry Christmas.
Hey, Grandpa. I just wanted to wish you a Merry Christmas. I really appreciate you and how thoughtful you always are, and how generous you've been with us and with your finances, but also your time and your love. I wanted to share a memory I have of you and Grandma and all the times and wonderful meals that we would share with you as a family. I particularly remember the delicious cream corn, the homemade grape juice, which there was never quite enough to satisfy me, but it was good. The wonderful songs. We thank you, Lord, and God is love. I remember those to this day, and I just wanted to let you know how much I appreciate you and how much you're loved, how much you are a cornerstone to this family, and how much we've seen the love of you and Grandma shine out in our parents and also into our lives. It's very apparent in the way they've raised us, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate Grandma. And again, Merry Christmas. We love you very much, Grandpa.
We want to share a couple memories of Grandma and Grandpa. So Christopher, do you want to start?
Yeah. I really enjoyed having the hymns that we would sing when we would come over. That was something that was nice because I don't have as many memories of Grandma with more of her memories and or her ability to remember. But when we would sing, she would usually come in and be able to sing with us. So that was really nice.
So I want to give a quick shout out to Grandpa's Pickles. I actually really, really liked Grandpa's Pickles. Still do. Just the perfect amount of crunchiness with the right amount of sweetness. So, yep, those will go down in history as one of the best pickles. I also really liked hearing Grandpa's story, stories that he would tell, and especially one where, I guess in college, Grandpa was a sought after man. Sought after man, and he was going on dates with a couple different people, and I guess at that time Ruth was interested in him, but in this special occasion, Grandpa was actually going on a date with another girl. They went sledding. They went down a hill on a toboggan and then hit something, and the girl ended up like losing a tooth or something, and so obviously not the best date, and I guess Ruth wasn't too jealous then of that after all, but luckily things worked out for them, and we're all happy for it.
And I have fond memories of your old house, especially the laundry chute that was in your old house. I remember we would play some sort of game where I would chuck a ball down the laundry chute, and then Christopher would be on the other side, or vice versa, grabbing the ball, and I always thought it was super fun to play around with. And also I want to thank you, Grandpa, for your recent help with getting a car. I appreciate also in other ways the way that you show caring for all of us grandchildren.
Merry Christmas, Grandpa, from Nico, Raven, Jim, who's the cameraman, and myself. Wanted to share a couple memories from growing up. One of my favorites was just anytime we would go to you and Grandma's house in Eureka for a family meal, whether it was, just a Sunday after church, just our family or a big family gathering. There was always tons of food. You couldn't go away hungry. And if Lindsay and I were there, we would usually, do a potato eating contest. And I think I maxed out at about 7 halves of potatoes at my peak in middle school. Probably can't even do that today. And I'd always make sure I got more than my fair share of Grandma's gravy, which was the best ever. Maybe make some gravy bread. I remember Marisa and I were in charge of cooking a meal one time, or the entree, and we were going to make spaghetti, but somehow we messed that up. It's like a huge pot. So we ended up making spaghetti balls, which we baked, and were not great, but definitely memorable. Probably won't be trying that again. Always before we would feast on the food for the meal, we'd all join hands and sing what I call the family anthem, God is Love. Grandpa's deep bass and Grandma's sweet soprano, and then the rest of us chiming in to give thanks to a tune that I think really epitomizes, kind of the foundation of your faith, Grandpa and Grandma. Another fond memory I have is when you guys would talk about, your time at Goshen College, especially once I was a student there myself. I really enjoyed hearing all your tales, like you pranking people. I think you told a story about how you somehow snuck a car into the ad building. I might have to hear that one again. Grandma's time as a standout nursing student and going to Colorado for that. The harsh conditions of like the military barracks that you stayed in, Grandpa, for a time. And then of course, when I think it was Grandma spotting you walking through campus out her window at Culp Hall, walking by a fountain that you would later be thrown in when you guys became engaged. So those are some good memories, and Merry Christmas. Love you.
Hey Grandpa, some of the things I remember the most about going over to your house, your and Grandma's house growing up, was as soon as we would arrive, we'd always get really good warm hugs from both you and Grandma. And I always remember Grandma's hugs as always being soft and loving, and like you always knew just how much she loved you just the moment you arrived, right? She'd wrap you up, and that was always like the first thing I could count on walking in, and we would always get like the nicest big hugs. And then of course, because like I was a little kid, the next thing would be to look into the green glass bird and check and see if there are M&Ms or Skittles in there. And usually if Aaron was there, we would then also look in the basement And we'd see, was there any juice in the old fridge downstairs? Or maybe pop. I think we usually came away with like cranberry juice and squirt. They probably weren't our favorites, but we drank them because we were little kids who loved sugary drinks, and we couldn't help ourselves, I think. But I have a lot of memories of being in the basement. Now, a lot of the fun things that we did, I remember we went down into the basement. It was, in the fall, watching really bad Chicago Bears games on the old TV in the basement. Or it was, being gathered around in the basement, and the wood stove would be on when it was cold, and it would get piping hot. and usually some of like the uncles would begin falling asleep laying on the floor. And Aaron would inevitably tell me, "David, come look." And he would like spit on top of the stove, and it would boil, and the little bubbles would sizzle around. And I thought that was cool. But I also remember helping out, and I thought that was so much fun. Being able to help stoke the fire by getting the wood and helping load it up, and wheeling over the little wheelbarrow of firewood. But in general, to me, so many of these things, whether it was in the basement or it was upstairs or wherever, it was about gathering together with loved ones, and it was all of our family, extended family, being present. We'd get together to be making cider, or we'd be outside, and some of the cousins and uncles and aunts and even sometimes Grandpa, you too, would be there, and we'd play basketball outside. I remember that when I was really little, and that to me was so fun. But it was holidays, it was Thanksgiving, it was Christmas, and having the big table in the dining room extended to the maximum amount with the supports and legs down. I always remember sitting there, and I could, at times, be right next to the support and could barely move my legs, but the table was so huge, right? It needed those supports to be able to stand. And those were always special moments. And I think in many ways, as a kid, you take it for granted. I never really quite fully appreciated the extent to which that was special. That we had, so many people who would get together and show our love for one another that way. And I certainly look back really fondly on that. And it was just cool to be able to have that, right? That every kind of summer and fall or winter, we would get to see so many of each other and get together. And it would be aunts, it'd be uncles, it'd be cousins, it'd even be, like your brothers and sisters, right? Like your sisters. It'd be like the great aunts and uncles there too, right? And that was always really cool. I always felt so, happy to be able to see everyone like that. And then the thing I always remember at the end of every trip, no matter what, and even though we only lived not that far away, like we would come fairly frequently, is you and Grandma standing out in the driveway as we pulled away, and you'd wave the whole time until we were out of sight. And it always was special, and I will always remember those memories. Merry Christmas, Grandpa.
Merry Christmas, Grandpa. I thought I'd share a memory of coming to visit you guys when my family still lived in Chicago. I know Jonathan and I always looked forward to coming to visit. It was such a great haven for all the grandkids there, with all the toys you had in the basement and all that kind of magical seeming laundry chute from the bathroom down to the laundry room. That was a source of great fascination. I was remembering the time we made apple cider. We probably made it several times, but I remember with the other cousins just kind of wandering around amongst the adults who were cutting apples and chatting, and then using that giant press. How impressive that was, and it was just so delicious and rich and sweet and tangy. It was a really special memory. All right, Merry Christmas.
Hey, Grandpa. One of my favorite memories, don't know if it's around Christmas time or just one of the normal visits, pertains to food. Obviously, we always had a lot of food when we got together. And some of the really special things were when you would bring out, the apple press with a hand crank, and we would make apple cider. There was also a crank, I think, on ice cream maker. I don't think we did that around the holidays, but that was also really fun. You always had all these jars of grape juice that I just thought was like, oh man, this is so cool. My grandpa makes these things. This is where apple cider comes from. So thinking about you this holiday, I love you so much, and yeah, think fondly about all the meals that you would share with us and those special hand-cranked dishes that we would all participate in. Love you, Grandpa.
I wanted to share some of my memories from growing up. Have a lot of the memories that the other grandchildren have already shared, but I wanted to share a few additional memories that I have. I remember Christmas time being such a special time when we gathered at your house. We'd all go down to the basement and have the wood stove burning, and we would sing Christmas songs. I can really remember singing Jingle Bells every year with those loud sleigh bells on the wall that we would have someone ring. And then after that we would gather the Christmas presents and the little envelopes that were hanging on the tree, and us grandkids would hand them out to everybody. When you and Grandma opened gifts, it seemed like every year you got a blue dress shirt and mixed nuts, and Grandma would get a red sweater or a sweater with birds on it, and then you both would get a calendar. I'm guessing you got other presents, but those were the ones that stuck out in my mind that you must have really enjoyed. Us girl cousins loved going into Grandma's bathroom and trying on her perfume and her little face powders. I can remember finding those in her bathroom and just having a lot of fun with them. And then we would go in her back sewing room, and she would show us the project she was working on. And I also remember going down to the basement in that back room. It was just filled with plants. I thought of it like a rainforest almost. It just showed off Grandma's green thumb and how well she could take care of any type of plant. As others shared, of course, I have many good memories of all the delicious, healthy food that you and Grandma cooked, and all of the angel food cakes that we would eat for our birthdays. I can remember going down the stairs to the basement and just marveling at the cans of soup that were stacked up so high. And I mean, one, that you had that many cans of soup, but also that they somehow didn't fall as we ran up and down the stairs. And then we would get to the bottom of the stairs, and on the table you would have those walnuts that we would try to crack open, which was always a fun challenge. Before we could leave, I knew that you would give us a big bear hug and Grandma would give us a big kiss on the cheek, and we couldn't leave before that happened. Something I really appreciate is just how much your love for God has always been at the forefront of your life and evident to us all. Just when you would pray for mealtime, you would weave in the gospel story so we could hear about Jesus one more time. And I knew that you and Grandma prayed for us, and you continue to pray for me, and I really appreciate that. And just also the love and care you showed Grandma, especially toward the end of her life. Just your great love for her was always evident. I really treasure the times that we sang together, and I happened to find a video from 2012 of us singing Silent Night, and I thought I would play that now to end this video. And I just think it's so special in the video. You see you and Grandma, and you can just tell your love for each other. Love you, Grandpa. Merry Christmas.
I love you so much. Merry Christmas.
We love you very much, Grandpa.
Love you, Grandpa.
Love you, Grandpa. Merry Christmas.